if you run, that'd be great, because my friends and I could actually be voting for someone instead of against somebody. And part of that for them goes back to your thing on trust and integrity. When I grew up in this town in North Dakota, 300 people, my grandparents had started the grain elevator there. A grain elevator receives grain from farmers in the fall, and they bring it in one truckload at a time. And the farmland doesn't change hands. So the farmland in that area is now owned by the grandkids and the great-grandkids, the people that were the customers of my grandparents when they started. I got a nephew who's now, leading this organization, fourth generation. It was founded in 1906. When I was about 7 years old, my dad took me up into the driveway where the trucks come in and they unload, and they bring in one truckload at a time. Each truckload, you take a sample. When you take a sample of that wheat that's coming in, for example, depending on how you take the sample of it flowing out of the truck, you can either take one that's got the most wheat possible, or you can take one that's got the most chaff. And my dad said, look, we build trust one transaction at a time, one truckload at a time, and then we do that for a season, then you do it for a year, and then you do it for a decade, and then you do it for a generation. Because I said, well, why are these people hauling their grain from 20 miles away and going through 2 other towns to get here? And they said, well, somebody screwed Grandpa 2 decades ago, and they're never hauling their grain back there again. And now that, it goes to the son, and then the son and the grandkids. I don't know why we don't go there. We've always gone here. I mean, it's like it gets passed down for generations. My whole life has been around living in when you grow in a small community, in transparency, integrity, and trust is critical to what you do. The whole business that we built, Great Plains Software, we started with 10 kids, we built it into 2,000, a global organization with 2,000 team members, 10,000 plus partners, hundreds of thousands of customers all over the world. That whole business model was built on trust. Okay, thank you. He said he was a customer, so that's great. And we had partners here, we had team members in New Hampshire, but that whole model was built on trust. One of the things that we have brought in our role when we've been the commander-in-chief of the National Guard in North Dakota, when we've been leading that state, is trust and integrity and transparency. It's so important, because when you're in the executive branch, if you want to go to Washington D.C. and be in Congress and put on a red jersey or a blue jersey and lob bombs and tweet at each other and do that, great. But the executive branch actually has to run something. I'm an operating guy. That's all they've ever done is operate stuff, and operate it well. That's how I knew to take $1.7 billion dollars out, and it still operated. I'm an operating guy. And when you're running the executive branch, it's not. Yes, I'm a conservative, fiscal conservative policies, all that stuff. But guess what? In North Dakota, people that may not agree with me politically, we plow the roads for them. We plow the roads for Democrats. We plow the roads for independents. They go to our schools. We deliver health care services. You got to work for everybody, and people in North Dakota know that. That's why we got reelected by over 40 points, because they said, wow, these guys, I believe what he says, and if he says something not right, he's accountable when things don't go wrong. This is what leadership is all about. Leadership isn't about name calling to other people. It's not about who can come up with the quippiest quip. It's about, none of you would pick a CEO for your company. You wouldn't pick a superintendent. You wouldn't pick a passer. You wouldn't pick a coach for your granddaughter's third grade soccer team, by saying who can dish out the biggest insults at somebody else the quickest. That's not how you pick leadership. I don't know how we even got to this spot. You all know what leadership is when you've seen it, and leadership is about trust. It's integrity. It's about execution. It's about delivering, and it's about bringing out the best of people. And it's about understanding who our real enemies are, because we got real enemies. We're in a cold war with China, proxy war with Russia, proxy war with Iran. That's our real enemies. We've got real challenges that are facing our nation right now. So I don't know how to, and ask different variants of this question before of what I would do, but I just have to tell you, it's so close to who I am about the integrity and the trust piece. I don't know how to answer it other than just tell you this is who I am and this is what I've been doing my whole life. And this is why on the day we announced, and I walked out on stage on June 7th, there was kids from my high school class there. There was kids from college, fraternity brothers and others. There was kids from grad school. There was people from the first business we started. We had partners and customers for Great Plains that drove across states and flew across the country to be there, because their lives were changed by the opportunities that we created for them. And so that's who I am. It's part of the reason why we're running. We've got to restore faith in our institutions, and it's got to start at the top. If you don't have trust in the leadership at the top, how do you trust any of the organizations that are going underneath that? But thank you. Ma'am?